Welcome back to Suck Less Saturday, folks. I am your host, Neil. I am getting ready to get on an airplane here this week. So this is our last week of the Suck Less for Neil. Now we're going to continue on with some other fun stuff, and I'm excited for what we've got to come. But I wanted to thank everybody that's come along. Those of you that are new to this, just a real brief outline of what we're doing. I'm taking Gabe White's class with John and several of the active self-protection folks next week. So we started about 5 weeks ago with this deal. I had contacted Gabe and said, hey, I want to perform better this year than I did last year. And so he gave me some stuff to work on, gave me permission to make these videos. And this is an experiment. We don't know for sure how Neil's going to do next week in Phoenix. So we're going to see. This is going to be fun. And I thank everybody that's come along and I welcome everybody that's new.
Everyone should have a less lethal tool on their person in this day and age. And the one that I carry, give to my family, and recommend to everyone is Palm OC. Hit the link in the description and you can get one for you and yours as well.
All right, so this last weekend, we had the Active Self-Protection National Conference down in Manhattan, Kansas, where we tried to raise a bunch of money for the Flint Hills foster teen camps. I think we raised somewhere north of $45,000, a little under $50,000 for them. So thank you to everybody. I know some folks that watched this were there because you talked to me, so that was awesome. I also know that some of you that were there are maybe now watching, so welcome. But it was a lot of fun, but Neil didn't get to work on as much dry fire as I would have liked to because I was a little busy running around. We did get some dry fire in, but not near as much. So one of the things that happened while we were in Kansas was that we did a little contest between some of the instructors. Now, I had already run this drill that we did the day before when we John and I just made these drills up and we were having a lot of fun. The day before, when I was focused solely on the process, I did very well. I performed pretty decently. This drill that you'll see on video here, I feel like I did pretty good. Maybe it's already up on the channel, but if not, go search for it. It's a casino drill on steroids, basically transitioning back and forth. It's pretty fun, and we were having a good time with it. But on Thursday night before the conference started, we had our staff meeting with all of the instructors and we did a little contest and everybody ran this thing. It's interesting when you stand in front of a bunch of your friends and some of your heroes, you perform a little bit differently and the stress level changes and everything's different. And it doesn't help when John Korea's yipping in your ear giving you a hard time because it's a competition and he wants to win too, right? So we were having a lot of fun with it. It was a really good time, but Neil got focused on the outcome, not the process. And the day before when I focused on the process, I performed pretty well. Thursday evening, when I focused on the outcome, it's like the wheels fell off. Things got wobbly. I only had one run, so it is what it is. I'm not making excuses for anything else that was going on. I got in my own head. I worried about the outcome, those bullet holes on the targets, and not the process by which making those happen. And I did not perform well. It happens. It happened to several of us that evening, so I felt like I was in good company. The folks that really focused on process really just drilled this, and it was fun to watch. We had a blast, but it got me thinking that for these last few days before I get on the plane to go there, Neil's got to get back to what we talked about in the first couple weeks, is process-focused training. I'm not worried about the outcome. I'm not worried about my Mantis score. I'm not worried about anything other than the process. Now, I'm still going to use my timer because, I want to work at a specific speed and I'm still working down, but I'm not going to use the Mantis for a couple of days because I've already used that to track my progress along. Now I'm coming right into the last few days and I just want to focus on the process and not worry about scores at this point. Let that happen. Once that bullet leaves the gun, there's nothing I can do about it. So everything that I can do is before I press that trigger. And so I really want to focus on that this week. So process-wise, there's a few things that I want to talk about. The first thing to getting a good shot off is getting your gun into the fight or getting your gun into the drill as we do it. Very first thing, if you're carrying concealed, is you've got to clear a cover garment. And I want to talk about that a little bit. This is as much for me as it is for you. So, so let's enjoy this, right? So as I teach this, I know there's a lot of different ways to do this. You can start, hands here, 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 I like the fig leaf. I can do this as well. There's different processes by which to do it. But for Gabe's class, I'm probably going to start most of my stuff at the fig leaf. And with the fig leaf, yes, I'm cheating because I'm going to cheat if the day ever comes. I'm going to cheat, right? I hope you do too. This is about survival, not about being fair. There's no such thing as a fair fight. I don't remember who taught me that, but it was probably some guy that beat me up once. But anyway, let's start, or wherever you start, get into your starting position. Get your feet where you want them, your toes pointed at the target, all of this process stuff that you need to do. Now I get a hold of the hem and then I'm clearing to my sternum. Now if you watch closely, you'll see as I'm coming up, my wrist breaks up like that. What that does is it gives me a little bit more clearance here, so my cover garment clears the gun. If you're a strong side person and you start like this, I know a lot of strong side folks that try the fig leaf kind of stand like so, right? So then what you're doing is it's almost a C motion, but if you break the wrist up like this, you'll clear more there as well. The other thing that it does is it helps me marry the gun up because my wrist is already where it should be, versus if I just pull to here and then try to marry up, I've got to break my wrist into the gun, and then that's harder for my pinkies because I'm really focusing on my pinkies in this process. So I'm clearing the gun, and at the same time, I'm getting a hold of it with my strong hand. Now I do the claw grip thing with my thumb over the back plate, and that's for a reason. Here, I'm going to show you quickly. I've got a cleared gun, nothing in there. Hey, can you see me? All right, I've got a mag block in here. This is a cleared gun. But what happens if I start with my thumb over the back, I've got all this real estate right here that I can cover in with this hand, right? Mine's a little different than some folks because I've got some bigger hands, and what really works well for me is I use this as an index point for my other pinky, for my support side pinky, and then my support side trigger finger just kind of hangs there. That is not really doing much for my grip. I'm not doing this, because then I'm going to pull the gun back and forth and control it in a weird way. Sometimes I do get into it just a little bit, but then see, it's hard to get the trigger finger. So that thing just kind of hangs there. But what I'm really focused on is these pinkies and controlling the fulcrum of the lever. I think that's a science thing. I don't know. I didn't do very well in science. Thanks, Mrs. Grayot. But anyway, no, she was actually a nice lady. Anyway, so this is my index point here as I'm pressing out. So that's why I start with my thumb here. I roll in like so, pressing out, and then I feel like I'm doing a dance here. And then my thumb comes around over the top. I press out, I see my sight, break the shot. Okay? That's the process by which I am drawing. Now, the thing is, I'm thinking about these pinkies, and if I really press out and get a hold of those pinkies, boy, that sight goes nowhere. When I'm doing my 3 triggers, if I'm really focused on my pinkies, that sight goes nowhere. That gun stays very, very still. So that's the process by which I'm going to really focus on this week. Every day for this week, what I'm going to do is basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 50 to 100% to everything that we do. So instead, if it's a 10 draw minimum, it's now going to be a 20 draw minimum. So instead of 40 draws a day, I'm going to up that to 80. I feel like I'm in shape enough. I shouldn't injure myself. I'm not going to hurt anything. If I hurt something doing 80 draws a day, I probably have no business being in Gabe White's class anyway, because we're probably going to draw 1,000 times in that class. So for this week, I just want to push through, focus on the process. Do not worry about the outcome. The outcomes will come. Once that bullet leaves your gun, can't do anything about it. So but you can control everything up to that point. And if you think about that and really focus, worry about the process, you're good to go. So with that said, I'm going to show you just a couple of draws. I'm not going to do a ton of stuff on camera this week because we're already, 10 minutes into this video, somewhere in that ballpark. I want you to really focus on process. I also want to thank the 3 folks that actually came to the ASP Dry Fire Challenge page and posted some video of themselves. I'm actually headed to the post office today to send out your Suck Less patches that we talked about last week. I don't have one here I'd show you, but they say Suck Less. Neat, right? This is going to be a fun thing. And then as we go through, there'll probably be one more of these that talks about how I did at Gabe's class Again, process-wise, if I focus on the process, I should perform better. I think that I'm doing okay there, as long as I stay out of here. When Neil gets in his head, things fall apart pretty bad. So I just need to focus and stay in the game and stay in the moment, focusing on that process. I say all this stuff to myself to remind myself, but for other people, I know a lot of people struggle with that. When we get in our own heads, we get in our way, things get messed up, and all we focus on is where those bullet holes are, or shooting free throws, or kicking a football, or playing pool, or whatever it is we're doing. Things get kind of wonky when we focus on the outcome. So let's focus on the process and have some fun. As we progress further into the Suck Less Saturday thing, I got some really cool people lined up that are going to help us all suck less. Really excited about that. So continue to hang out with us on Saturdays. We are going to have some more challenges with the patches, so we'll have some fun with that. And let's all suck less. I'll see you next week.